This is the X-Zone Broadcast Network, broadcasting worldwide on broadcast affiliates and satellite program providers, including CNN Broadcast Network, Sirius Satellite Network, Star Media, Good News Radio Network, Angel Broadcast Network, Wiki Broadcast Network, and WPBN TV. For more information on the X-Zone Broadcast Network, visit us at www.xzbn.net.
Hi, curious minds out there in our ever-expanding Radioland. Welcome to CC with BB, Connecting with Coincidence with Dr. Bernie Beitman, MD. That's me. The only radio show in the world dedicated to the study of coincidences, synchronicity, and serendipity. We are coming to you through the X-Zone Broadcast Network, located in Hamilton, Ontario, Canada, and broadcasting all over the world. What is the relationship between mind and brain? Does brain produce consciousness, or does the greater consciousness produce our brains? How do mind and brain interact with each other? I am a psychiatrist. I study this question in my office. I help people with medications and psychotherapy. I work in both mind and in the brain. You need your mind to recognize a coincidence and your brain to talk about it. Synchronicity spoken here. Coincidences alert us to possible causal connections not recognized by modern science. If you study your own coincidences, you will increase your curiosity about how our reality works. The phrase connecting with coincidence is my coincidence brand. It is the name of my book, my Psychology Today blog, my website, and my social media sites. To find any and all of them, please put Connecting with Coincidence in your search engine. Would you like to know how sensitive to coincidences you are? Take the Weird Coincidence survey on my website. The word synchronicity was invented by Carl Jung. It meant falling together in time, sync together, chron in time. The meaning of the word has been so stretched that in the mind of the general public, it is applied to all kinds of coincidences. Because it is a cool word, companies of various kinds, processes of various kinds have been called synchronicity. Currently, meaningful coincidences are lumped together under one umbrella, but not all coincidences are created equal. The new discipline of coincidence studies begins with defining and establish the primary categories of coincidences. In this way, we can investigate differences in similarity among coincidence types. By creating these primary categories, we will find, among other things, that different coincidences have different processes, explanations, and uses. The primary methods to categorize coincidences include morphology, process, explanation, and use. Morphology involves classifying objects in a group by shape. Morph, shape. In biology, for example, morphology deals with the form and structure of animals and plants. Like animals and plants, coincidences can be categorized by their common shapes, and these shapes and their differences help sharpen our understanding of their function and cause. Does the coincidence, for example, involve a mental event or not? Are there two or more events involved? Process refers to the various sequences of events that help create coincidences. For example, like sitting down next to a stranger. It's one of the funny things that happens to people. They sit down next to somebody and they don't know, and they start talking, and voila. There's something that overlaps in their minds and their experiences. Explanations include possible causes, the two most prominent of which are God and randomness, and there are plenty of others. Probability gets a lot of play, and God does too, but also there are in-between ones that I can be able to point out that each of us has something to do with personally, that we create many of our coincidences. Uses covers the potential impact of coincidences, including advice, support, and supplying just what is needed. Morphology is based on three ideas, three observations. Because a coincidence is usually defined as the surprising intersection of two or more similar events, these events involve a mental event or mind, or an observable event or thing. So these two possibilities create three categories: mind-thing, mind-mind, and thing-thing. These are kind of funny words to use. Thing-thing, mind-mind, mind-thing. Very basic words. But these very basic words help us get to some very basic ideas about coincidences. Our guest today has collected extraordinary stories that involve often coincidences, and she challenges us to make sense of them. Suzanne Clores is the author of Memoirs of a Spiritual Outsider, a memoir, an ethnographic of alternative spiritual practices, and founder of the Extraordinary Project, an online collection of exceptional human experiences, soon to be a podcast. Her personal essays have appeared in Salon, Elle, The Rumpus, and Nervous Breakdown, and have aired on Chicago Public Radio and the Radiotopia podcast Strangers. Suzanne, we welcome you here, and we look forward to talking with you about your adventures and extraordinary events in our next segment. We'll be back after a short break.
This is the X-Zone Broadcast Network, broadcasting worldwide on broadcast affiliates and satellite program providers, including CNN Broadcast Network, Sirius Satellite Network, Star Media, Good News Radio Network, Angel Broadcast Network, Wiki Broadcast Network, and WPBN TV. For more information on the X-Zone Broadcast Network, visit us at www.xzbn.net.
Did you know that when you're on the road with limited data or Wi-Fi, you can still listen to the X-Zone Radio Show with Rob McConnell, The Science of Magic with Gwilda Wiyaka, X-1, Dimension X, Space Patrol, and every minute of the X-Zone Broadcast Network by calling 213-401-0080, courtesy of Audio Now. No smartphone, app, or internet needed. It saves your data plan, and it's free if you have unlimited minutes. Call 213-401-0080 to listen on any phone, anytime, anywhere. Remember 213-401-0080 for the best of the paranormal, parapsychology, and sci-fi radio programming anywhere, 24/7, 365.
I am Dr. Carl O'Helvey, founder, president of a new cancer foundation focusing on evidence-based physical, mental, and spiritual interventions, including natural cancer cures, prayer, meditation, affirmations, nutrition, and other related holistic cancer prevention and cure modalities. These are used in cancer education, research, and financing care. I ask for your help to continue this important work by donating at www.holisticcancerfoundation.com.
Hello, I'm Pete Marsh. With my daughter Justina, we will be presenting the new radio show, Too Good to Be True. If something seems too good to be true, it usually is. But with the help of Justina's amazing gifts, we're going to gain insight into questions that don't yet have complete answers. Have you wondered who built Stonehenge and for what reason? Why are crop circles found in the same region as Stonehenge and elsewhere? Are crop circles a hoax, or are they created with technologies that we have little knowledge of? Who built the pyramids in Egypt and also in other countries? How and why were they built? Was the Titanic switched with the Britannic as part of a gigantic insurance fraud, or for more insidious reasons? What caused the Tunguska event when trees were flattened over an 800 square mile area in Siberia? Will the new insights be too good to be true? Well, that will depend on what you are prepared to believe. Please join us as we start on this journey together. For more information on Too Good to Be True, visit www.xzbn.net.
Little children aren't the only ones afraid of the dark. Millions of soldiers return from war zones with PTSD, anger, frustration, fear, and loneliness, much of which surfaces during the darkness of the night. You have the chance to change the lives of these American heroes. Songs and Stories for Soldiers.us provides free MP3 players for these men and women. With a list of 3 million songs in 16 different styles, 100,000 audiobooks, and 30,000 old-time radio programs, every veteran can find something to soothe and comfort them at no cost. All our players contain an 8-hour audio program designed to help veterans fall asleep. With 1,500 plus vets now participating, it's our goal to deliver 10,000 audio players this year. Go to our website at songsandstoriesforsoldiers.us. Help us help a veteran make it through the night.
Bum, bum, bum. Welcome back to CC with BB, Connecting with Coincidence with Dr. Bernie Beitman, MD. That's me. Our guest today is Suzanne Clores, the creator of the Extraordinary Project, which includes many coincidences. She comes from Chicago. We've had a couple of opportunities perhaps to meet in person. We've never really talked, and we talk now. Suzanne, thank you very much for being our guest on this program.
Oh, thank you so much. It's such a pleasure to speak with you finally.
Thank you very much.
Mm-hmm.
You have started this project because how did you get involved with collecting stories like the ones you've collected?
It's such a good question. Well, usually when I start a project, I come from more of a literary background, so I've come from the creative writing world, and usually you get an idea in your head and it seems finite and doable and wonderful, and then you start and it's huge and unwieldy, and that's what's happened with this project. But I started mostly because I guess I could say, I was a new parent and was kind of down in the weeds of motherhood, and had carved. That's the best way I can say it.
That's pretty funny. Down in the weeds of motherhood.
Yes,
I'm trying to imagine that one.
It's just very real life, like everything is very concrete and tactile, and there's not a ton of mystery, even though it's like the greatest mystery in the world. And I had carved out a little bit of time for myself, and was really looking for the things that excited me to write about. And what came up were these puzzles. There were just a lot of puzzles of past experiences of my own. And I didn't really have definitions for them, but they were coincidental and kind of life-changing. And, I think the main thing that happened was that I was working on a piece of fiction, and I realized I didn't know what the word precognition meant. And so I Googled it, because that's a word that gets thrown around a lot in sci-fi movies. And so I Googled it, and this study had popped up, a recent study that was covered all over the news, and about precognition being real, or that there was like an ability for the body to sense the future by like 10 seconds. And so I Googled and found the study, and found out that the scientist, the lead scientist, was actually at the university in my town. And I thought, that's strange. That's a weird coincidence, because I was in Atlanta at the time at my in-laws' house. And I live in Chicago, and I was surprised to see that the scientist was at Northwestern. So I called University Relations and got her name, and we agreed to meet. And it turned out that this expert in the field of predicting the future lived like 4 blocks away from me.
Nice.
Which was a fantastic coincidence.
What's her name?
Her name is Dr. Julia Mossbridge.
Mossbridge. Okay, great. Yeah, I've heard of her.
Mm-hmm. Yes, and so that was kind of a fantastic coincidence in the first place.
Yeah.
And then that kind of helped me cull this idea that is not an unusual experience. People have these experiences all the time, but there's no real vocabulary for them. People don't know how to talk about them. They're not sure if it's, like you said in your intro, if it's God or if it's probability and so I just thought that was a very interesting piece of human life.
Now, I want to underline something you just said, vocabulary. Now, that's why we need people who know English or know their language, not just English, know their language well, because we have to be creating new words for some of what we're discovering. And
what a good idea. Yes. Well, you've done a good bit of that, right?
I like to make up a few of them, yeah. I've done simulpathity, which is the description of a lot of people's experiences of feeling the pain of a loved one at a distance, simul at the same time, pathy, feeling, to distinguish it from telepathy, where telepathy originally meant that, what I just said simulpathity is, but telepathy came to be is known now as more knowing thoughts in somebody else's mind.
But the feeling is a different experience, isn't it?
Yes, and telepathy was tele at a distance, pathy, feeling.
I see what you mean.
So please continue.
Oh, no, well, actually, this is a little bit of a departure, but when you mentioned simulpathity, it's a perfect word for the story a woman told me about about her cat. She was studying in Paris, and she had left her very old cat with a cat sitter in Texas, and she started to get a bad feeling, and so she called, or actually the cat sitter called her and said, I think your cat has taken a turn for the worst. And this young woman said, well, put him on the phone. And so the cat sitter, so the cat sitter held the phone up to the cat, and this young woman said she had this visceral experience of, she could hardly explain it, but it was not her own experience, and she felt like it was the state of the cat, and she told him, she said, I'm forgetting his name, it was like Sebastian or something. She said, it's okay, you can let go. You can let go. And at that moment, the cat, she felt like this huge movement through her, and she knew, and what the cat sitter then confirmed, and she said, he's gone.
Wow. Wow. There's a story of Oscar the cat, who would hang around very sick people in a hospital in Providence, Rhode Island, and Oscar had this capacity of going over to the bed of the person who was about to die. And when Oscar did that, they called the staff called the relatives.
Oh my gosh. Wow. What a useful cat. I mean,
what a useful cat.
That's really, it's a great service that the cat was providing.
Absolutely. That's why Oscar got famous.
Yeah.
That's a good story. That's a good story. So you ended up next door almost to Julia Mossberg, and that somehow got you on a little more on the road towards the extraordinary project.
Yes, Julia Mossbridge. Yeah. So, what happened then was, I just started asking people. I just started talking to people and saying, and most people would look at me and say, "What do you mean extraordinary experience?" And then I would kind of describe, and they'd get this look on their face, and they'd say, "Oh,
yeah,
I've got one."
Yeah, I've got one. You've got one.
And what I found was that most people have one, at least one, right?
Yeah.
Is that what you found too?
Oh, yeah. I mean, it's pretty amazing. And there's some people you can't stop. They'll tell you all of them. I mean, some of them have a lot. But yes, most people seem to have at least one. And they don't have the opportunity to talk about it. Why? Because they think the listener will think they're crazy.
Right. There's such a knee-jerk. So that's the other thing. There's a knee-jerk reaction in so many of us to just deny what they said because for many reasons, but just culturally, we don't really accept these types of experiences as valuable and informative in a way that we can understand.
Yes. Or even to start with, valid. It's kind of like, oh, you're making that up or you're crazy. It can't be true because the current paradigm, scientific paradigm, which is kind of become more of a theology, is that there is nothing more than what you can touch or feel there or see. But as precognition shows, as the cat experiences show that there's much more on Earth than meets the eye.
Yes, and I think we all know that. I mean, I think we all feel things that we can't see. It happens all the time, every day, every minute of the day. But there isn't a way to process these experiences socially.
Yes, very good, very good, very good. No, there's no way to process them socially. So maybe this is where we have something in common. I think it is where we're trying to be able to establish the potential for dialogue about extraordinary experiences.
Mm-hmm. Yes, definitely. I think we do have that in common. And it's been, some of the stories that people have sent, what I found too is like, as I uncover my own kind of forgotten stories, those usually stimulate other people's memories. So if you share one story about, like one thing for me, when I had my daughter, there was during delivery, there was a moment where I actually heard a voice, and there wasn't any, I had already started, I hadn't started the Extraordinary Project. But I was clearly attuned to these types of experiences, and I heard a voice that gave me information that I could not have had otherwise, that changed the course of the labor and delivery. And when I told people that story, there were so many who responded and said, I heard a voice, and this is the situation where it took place. And this was what I thought, and I didn't doubt it, and this was my response. And then people call that voice different things, but the point is they heard something. They heard something that they didn't see the source from which it came.
And it felt like it was outside of them. That's what you just said in another way.
Right.
There's a voice outside of me that is talking to me and telling me to do something that is valuable to me.
Yes.
I had a smaller version just riding by one of our local grocery stores. Go in there, the voice said. I didn't want to. Go get a juice. I don't want to. Like, no, go on in there. And what unfolded was an extraordinary set of coincidences that, too long to say right now. We're coming to the end of this, but this segment. But there have been reports in the literature that I have looked up, not in much detail, that people we respect and know, like Winston Churchill, would hear voices, and these voices would be helpful. That hearing voices is not necessarily an indication of being crazy. It may be an indication of becoming more spiritually aware, more advanced psychologically, and we still have guys like me, psychiatrists, saying, "No, you're crazy. We gotta do something with you." And that's why people don't want to talk about such things. But it's so lovely when you can tell someone that you had an experience of hearing a voice and it was helpful in changing the course of the delivery. That's amazing. We're at the end of this segment, Suzanne. We will continue after a short break.
Dreams are our personal gateways into infinite wisdom. Don't miss shamanic counselor and indigenously trained dream decoder Sandra Corcoran's inspiring book, Shamanic Awakening Between the Dark and the Daylight. This remarkable work chronicles Sandra's 35 years of experience with diverse wisdom keepers and her initiations throughout the Americas and across the British Isles, Turkey, Greece, and Egypt. Sandy's knowledge of symbology, psychology, and myth influenced her dream blog and workshops. Sandy offers private tarot readings, international journeys, a meditative CD, as well as her book, Shamanic Awakening, to encourage you as you navigate this earth walk, creating a deeper connection to yourself and all that is. Find this and more at Sandy's website, starwalkervisions.com.
This is the X-Zone Broadcast Network, broadcasting worldwide on broadcast affiliates and satellite program providers, including CNN Broadcast Network, Sirius Satellite Network, Star Media, Good News Radio Network, Angel Broadcast Network, Wiki Broadcast Network, and WPBN TV. For more information on the X-Zone Broadcast Network, visit us at www.xzbn.net.
How would you like to be able to read other people's minds? Well, the next best thing is here. When you know how to read a person's name, you know how the person thinks, feels, and behaves. Each letter in our name holds a key to unlock our true essence. Our name contains both our gifts and challenges in this lifetime. Mnemology science discovers personality secrets hidden in the placement of the letters of our names, including the first and last impression people remember about us. Sharon shows us how to interpret the arrangement of letters as outlined in her book, Know the Name, Know the Person. Sharon Lynn Wyeth created mnemology science after 18 years of research and testing her theories, and has supported thousands of people around the world in understanding themselves and others better. You'll enjoy Sharon's unique teachings as she shares her system to learn the gifts behind your given birth name. Even if you don't like your birth name, there are jewels in this book. If you're thinking of changing your name, ready to name your child, or wanting to get along better with others, this is the book for you. If you'd like to improve your relationships and change your life for the better, get the book today, Know the Name, Know the Person, or visit www.knowthename.com. That's www.knowthename.com.
Hello, I'm Justina Marsh, and with my dad Pete, we are going to present a new show called Too Good to Be True. Together, we are aiming to discover more truths about this world and beyond. Do you have unanswered questions about the world? Do you ever wonder about aliens, conspiracy theories, or the universe? There are many shows discussing subjects such as pyramids or UFOs, but we want to relay this information based on our own research, including from spiritual means. Hopefully, listeners will be helped with their own beliefs and will appreciate the psychic insights that add to the previous research and information. We both look forward to sharing this insight and beginning this journey with our listeners. Visit xzbn.net for more information about when to listen.
Welcome back to CC with BB, the only radio show in the world dedicated to the study and discussion of synchronicity, serendipity, and coincidences. Our guest today is Suzanne Clores, the developer of the Extraordinary Project, and we're getting into some good stuff here, like finding the right words to talk about new stuff and to be able to help people accept that hearing voices right now may be a good thing for you. Suzanne, could you tell us what the voice said to you during your delivery and how it helped you?
Sure. So I had decided that I wanted to have my baby naturally and had spent all of those months prepping, finding the right medical team and the midwives and figuring out, all the things that people do. And once labor and delivery started, it was on a Tuesday, it wasn't really going well. And it was going very slowly. And, part of me was like, that's okay. This is the way I'm very optimistic, this is the way it's going to be. And I can do it. And I'm strong and I don't need the medicine and all this stuff. And then by Saturday, there was still no baby. And so I went and I had been convinced that I was having a son because I just knew, I'm a very intuitive person and I knew. And so I go to the hospital and, the medical staff is like, when did you go into labor? And I was like, Tuesday, but, it's going kind of slow. And they're like, okay, it's Saturday. Sure. Are you in pain? And I was like, well, yeah, kind of. And so anyway, we had an induction and, one intervention led to another, and there was this problem and there was that problem, and it became more intense and more painful. And still I was not willing to kind of throw the natural birth out the window. And really at the pinnacle of every woman has this moment, the worst moment of her birth experience, I heard this voice say, it's a girl and she needs your help. And the voice was outside of me, but it was also a little bit inside, in that I was pretty sure no one else could hear, even though I looked around at everybody's face to see if someone said that.
Wow.
And it was unquestionable that it was true and that I needed to do something. And so it was this moment where I woke up and I was like, I have to do something. I cannot just wait this out because I have this plan to have this baby the way I want to have this baby. And so I just looked at the midwife and I was like, it's a girl and she needs help. Call the surgeon. And within an hour, the surgeon, of course, arrived very quickly once he learned I had been in labor for days and I was, over the age of I was not the youngest mother in the world. And I had a C-section and she was removed and, with the cord wrapped around her neck and unable to move, she was all kind of bound up. And so that voice then made much more sense. She is not coming out and she needs to be surgically removed, and she's fine and perfect and wonderful. And it's a happy ending, but who knows what I would have decided if I had not heard that voice.
What do you make out of that you knew it was a boy to start with?
I think that was erroneous intuition. I think.
No question about that. No, yes or no, no. Erroneous intuition, yes.
Well, I think that's the thing about, it's such a life lesson where you can get all of this information about a certain subject and have a feeling and feel very confident about it, but often the outcome is not at all what you expected. And I don't know, I guess I just thought I would have a boy.
The reason I asked, besides that it's It's so obvious to ask. It's that is that one of my intents in coincidence studies is to help people learn to differentiate between the intuitions that are useful, the intuitions that are correct, and the ones that are not. And you had one, obviously, that was wrong, that you were very confident about. And I'm wondering how that has influenced your ability to listen to your own intuitions.
Good question. When I look back at that time, I look at the whole pregnancy and the whole kind of approach to becoming a parent was very willful. And I think a lot of the decisions I made and the intuitions I thought I had were actually stemming more from will. And I wasn't actually listening to kind of the vagaries.
That's so good that you were so intent on having a boy that you were able to fabricate an intuitive voice that sounded like it came from the other intuitive places that you had used before that were accurate, but you really forced it in and a kind of in a disguised form, so that it came out as intuition, but you'd put it in there because you wanted it to be there.
Yes, and then you find things to kind of support that thesis, like most people, and this comes into the world of information, of pregnancy information that is full of junk. Like you won't be as sick if you have a boy, if you're carrying a boy, or just like really kind of random information that people feed you.
That's along with another problem I see with the internet and just even people talking. So many people are certain about what they're saying with very little evidence to back it up, except their own belief that they're right.
Yes. Yes. And this, I think the world of the extraordinary is full of opinions like that.
Have you been able to now distinguish between willed, created intuition and like the real thing?
I hope so. I mean, I try.
Yeah.
It's I think so. I mean, it has so much more to do with self-awareness than you think it does. And if I'm being particularly willful on a day, then I know that I'm fabricating a lot of what's happening. But yeah, intuition definitely feels different. It's more subtle, I think.
Yeah.
Than I had previously thought. And I had always been somewhat intuitive, but I was never quite in touch with the intuitive process and how it felt. And so now I think I have a better sense of what intuition feels like and what accuracy feels like. It is like a sense.
Yeah, it's good. It's like a sense. I start with a still small voice.
Yeah.
It's still a child's voice, maybe. It's quiet in the middle of a lot of the storm of thoughts often going on in our minds, and it's there. It's quiet. You got to be able to tune in and listen to it, and how you've been able to manage to do that. If you could add some more to your understanding, because finding the words to be able to separate the wheat from the chaff, to separate the idea, the true intuition from other stuff that you're forcing in, or even coming from the outside from other people's opinions that you've internalized. Finding the right words to make those distinctions is a challenge, and I wonder how you would go about doing that.
Well, I mean, part of me thinks it's different for everyone. But for me, it has been, if I can have some time to meditate, not a ton of time, but some time to meditate in the morning, then I can kind of tune in a little bit better to what my interior world sounds like that day. And then I can kind of carry that knowledge or understanding with me throughout the day, and it's more accessible. So it's almost like just taking maybe 6 or 12 minutes, somewhere between 6 and 12 minutes, to meditate and listen, and not necessarily have an agenda during that time, except to just kind of witness. I don't know if that's helpful to you or what you were looking for, but
it is because I can visually feel what you just described, because it means that you take a little meditation time and examine your interior with an attempt to exclude the exterior as much as possible, and that sensitizes you to the quiet information that can come from inside.
Yes, and every day is different, so you might have different stuff coming up during that 6 or 12 minutes, and you could have pressure from a project or from a person, or too many things to do, or and all that stuff comes up. But at least it's like a way of compartmentalizing a little bit. So I do reserve the interior space to kind of have that space be receptive also.
Yeah, and what I just heard you describe is separating out the stuff that the day is going to require of you, or yesterday demanded of you, and being able to compartmentalize those as more exterior, more external. And then as you do that, because now you've practiced, you put that away kind of off to the side, and then open yourself up to the interior communications.
Definitely.
Yeah, that's a nice kind of video to me description of how you are able to tune in more to your intuitive information. We've got another minute left in this segment. And I want to be able to hear more in our next segment about the current status of the Extraordinary Project and how it's developing and where you see it going, because you're on to something very important here in being able to collect the stories, get them out, and giving people the opportunity not only to describe them but also to discuss them with each other. It's how to be able to have people out in the world do what you've been able to do and are still doing, to be able to hear other people's stories and to be able to then tell their own stories is a little bit like talking about dreams. I imagine wanting to have a synchronicity circle where people talk about their coincidences. And we'll get back to the Extraordinary Project after this short break. Are you curious? Do you want to learn more about how the world works and have fun at the same time? Study coincidences with me, Dr. Bernie Beitman, MD, on my Connecting with Coincidence radio show here on the XZBN network. Listen to Jungians theorize, statisticians randomize, true believers evangelize, while I categorize. I dance to the rhythm of coincidences. People who experience me see more of them. Maybe something on the show matches a thought in your mind. Let us know. Expand your mind to the weirdness happening around you. Synchronicity spoken here, there, and everywhere. For more information, put Connecting with Coincidence in your search engine and find my website, my social media sites, and my blog.
This is the X-Zone Broadcast Network, broadcasting worldwide on broadcast affiliates and satellite program providers, including CNN Broadcast Network, Sirius Satellite Network, Star Media, Good News Radio Network, Angel Broadcast Network, Wiki Broadcast Network, and WPBN TV. For more information on the X-Zone Broadcast Network, visit us at www.xzbn.net.
Did you know that when you're on the road with limited data or Wi-Fi, you can still listen to the X-Zone Radio Show with Rob McConnell, The Science of Magic with Gwilda Wiyaka, X-1, Dimension X, Space Patrol, and every minute of the X-Zone Broadcast Network by calling 213-401-0080, courtesy of Audio Now. No smartphone, app, or internet needed. It saves your data plan, and it's free if you have unlimited minutes. Call 213-401-0080 to listen on any phone, anytime, anywhere. Remember, 213-401-0080 for the best of the paranormal, parapsychology, and sci-fi radio programming anywhere, 24/7, 365.
True healing must address 4 levels: physical, emotional, mental, and spiritual, for us to live joyful and productive lives. We tend to treat 3 of the 4, leaving the spiritual languishing. If you're tired of the same dysfunctional patterns cropping up in your life, Soul Balancing is for you. Trixie Phelps, owner and founder of Soul Balancing, is a naturally gifted energy healer trained in numerous esoteric forms, including shamanism. Trixie has created a powerful modality that safely and effectively clears your energetic field. A soul balancing session can remove interference, heal trauma, and restore your hope. Contact Trixie for a life-changing long-distance session today, www.soulbalancing.world. There's a legend shared by many indigenous cultures of a time when the nations were cast to the 4 corners of the world. Each nation was given a body of sacred knowledge that held a different portion of the truth to preserve. True reality could not be known until all the nations reunited, combining the information. If a single one was missing, the world could not be reborn and darkness would prevail. The Science of Magic Radio is dedicated to reuniting the sacred knowledge. With the understanding, none of us has all the answers, but together we can open new perceptions and possibilities. Through our combined vision, the world can be reborn into a place where darkness no longer prevails. Join me, Gwilda Wiyaka, and the Science of Magic daily on the X-Zone Broadcast Network, xzbn.net, or visit us at thescienceofmagic.net.
Welcome back to CC with BB, where we're talking about the extraordinary project of Suzanne Clores, a collection of stories about extraordinary events in people's lives. And Suzanne is part of, I hope, a growing movement of people facilitating discussions about individual, personal, extraordinary coincidences, for example, that allow us to understand better and better how reality works, and it's not the same as modern science teaches us. So, Suzanne, tell us the current status and future directions of your extraordinary project.
Oh, sure. Thank you. So, right now, I have a website up that receives and shares people's extraordinary experiences that they write out. It's much easier for people to write them down, I found, rather than just tell them to video, which was my original idea. But there's something about the process of writing the experience down that it's true for writing in general, but especially when you're writing an intimate experience that maybe you haven't told before. It's an incredibly healing and powerful process and self-referential process where you're really kind of integrating this story, this extraordinary story that you almost can't believe yourself. So I have collected so many stories, and I've posted some and plan to keep posting more. But what occurred to me recently was that it's an incredible the material is great for the podcast medium. So I've been developing a podcast. Season 1 is 4 episodes, so I hope to have that done in another couple months, and we'll release them on iTunes. And the process of incorporating people's stories into a podcast has been really fun and really powerful, because you do get to hear their own voice, these stories in people's own voices, and you can hear how marvelous and personal and intimate they all are, and how confusing they all are.
Are you saying that you take the stories people write on your website and then take some of them and turn them into audio podcasts?
Yes, some. I mean, some people have agreed to record for me with audio, and so I put those into the podcast too. But others people write down, and then I either read or summarize or incorporate or get them to talk about it a little bit. So it's both.
Yeah. And you're creating the 4 episodes, so you're designing these things. You're writing a kind of script for each one of these episodes.
Yes.
What is your intent as you put together these stories?
That's a good question. Such good questions. I think my intent is to kind of group stories around questions. And they're kind of thematic. I find, like, as I collect stories, they have similarities. I'm sure you found that too. And some of them don't have names, and some of them do have names. But
that's my intent with coincidence studies, is to take unnamed groups of stories and describe their similarities in part with the title I give to the group. One of my for example, one process category that I work on is movement, that you create coincidences by moving, because coincidences require people to do stuff, and sitting down next to a stranger and starting to talk is one of the ways that coincidences are created. And add to that sometimes it's not sitting down next to someone, but it's going after someone that you intuitively feel you don't know, but you need to be able to make some contact with, and asking them a question. For example, in the Chicago airport, a guy named Jaworski, Leon Jaworski's son, Joseph Jaworski, saw a woman in the O'Hare airport and just knew she was the one for him somehow, and stopped her and asked her about herself. And they got married, and they've been married for quite a while. So I call that one the ask, just having the courage to ask. So I have about 10 or 12 categories, and I'd like to be able to send you a draft of them to see what you think of this categorization by process that I'm working on right now.
Sure. I mean, I'd be happy to look at them. And I also think you have a much more detailed and scientific level of expertise than maybe from where I'm coming from. And I think part of creating the conversation for me is helping people associate their experiences with other people's experiences. And even if they can't name them, they can know that they have shared in something with other people.
Yeah, and I'm now trying to be able to supply some names. My name is Rumpelstiltskin or something like that.
Yes.
Try to be able to call that call it by name. I'm a physician, and physicians are interested in diagnosis. So we call what seems like random collection of symptoms something, and that's what I'm doing with coincidence processes.
Yes, that's fascinating. Do you have people coming to you with their coincidences? I know I've written to you several times with my coincidences.
Yes. The one most prominent one was a woman from Ohio who drove to Virginia, where I am, and wanted a coincidence consultation because they had come on so quickly and with so many after her high school reunion. It's a post in Psychology Today called something like, "Is an onslaught of coincidences challenging your sanity?"
Yes. Wow. I think they do sometimes.
Oh, they do. They do. That's just hearing voices. It can do it. But if you have like 5 in a week for several months, you kind of wonder: are you seeing something that everybody else isn't? And the answer is yes, you are.
Yes, you are. That's right. Your world is shifting.
Your world is shifting. Your world is shifting. You're seeing that your world is shifting. Yes.
Yes. Anyway, so I'm really looking forward to this podcast. It's been great to bring these stories off the page and find different ways. You maybe have found this too, that writing about this topic in print kind of covers a certain ground, but then talking about it covers a really different area that is much more social and spontaneous.
As we're showing in our discussion. Absolutely. And there is something about hearing the person's voice, describing it versus reading it in print, that allows the listener to climb into the mind of the speaker to get a more visual, spatial view of that experience. Yeah, it's so true. It's true. I have my favorite experiences that I've been told have been by very hesitant, kind of like musician guys or people who generally don't want to tip their hand in one way or another. But it's been really fun to kind of get into conversation with people who are like, well, I do have this story that doesn't make a ton of sense, and I don't know what I think about it, and I haven't really talked about it, but those are always very juicy stories. I'm going to, in a month or two, I'm going to have a local Charlottesville trumpet player, been here a long time, who is very interested in coincidences on the show because he experiences a lot of them. Because they live in a very fluid environment compared to those in a more rigid ones that many of us live in, and so they're more likely to run into confluences of weird events. And some of them use it creatively, and some of them, as you're describing, kind of, oh, I'm not that crazy. It's not happening to me. That's right. Artists in general have great stories. Yes. Now we've got about 3 minutes left, and I want to be able to get some idea about the different themes of the 4 podcasts that you're developing. Oh, gosh. Well, it's structured around my journey through the questions that I have. It's sort of like once I stumble onto this topic, it's like peeling an onion. You have more and more and more questions. Well, if this is true, then you have to start asking all of these questions. And then if you ask all of these questions, you kind of need to be prepared for these answers and so on. But the first episode I can talk about has to do with people's dead loved ones. So coincidences and not so much coincidences, but truly extraordinary experiences that they've had saying goodbye to their Well, Suzanne, we come to the end of our show, and thank you very much for being on it. We're saying goodbye to